What if the I you are protecting every single day is the very source of your deepest suffering? Take a moment and notice how many things in your life revolve around this single letter. I. I want, I need, I deserve, I am right, I am wrong, I am not enough. From the moment you wake up, the story of me begins running again, like a movie that never stops. Before you even step out of bed, the mind is already busy. My problems, my plans, my reputation, my past, my future. We are so used to this inner narration that we rarely question it. We never ask, who is this I that everything is about? In this Dharma talk, I invite you to gently, honestly, and courageously look at the nature of this I. Not to destroy it, not to condemn it, but to understand it clearly. Because what we understand deeply no longer controls us blindly. The Buddha did not ask us to believe in a dogma. He invited us to look, to observe, to see reality as it is. Today, we will explore the ego from everyday life, from psychology, and then gradually move toward the way the Buddha examined this idea of self. This is not an abstract intellectual game. Your relationship with the I is the core of your relationship with suffering and with freedom. As long as the sense of I remains unquestioned, every criticism feels like an attack, every failure feels like a personal defeat, every success becomes something to cling to and fear losing. But when you begin to see the ego clearly, there is space, there is softness, there is a new possibility of peace. Welcome to this Dharma talk. As you listen, you do not need to agree or disagree with anything immediately. Simply notice how the words land in your own experience. Notice where your mind resists, where it relaxes, where it feels afraid, where it feels relieved. In this way, the talk becomes not just information, but a mirror for your own mind. Let us begin in a very simple place. What do we usually mean by ego? In everyday language, when we say someone has a big ego, we usually mean they are arrogant, self-important, always needing to be right, always needing attention, always defending their image. We think of the ego as pride, narcissism, selfishness. In this sense, ego is like a loud person inside the mind, constantly saying, "Look at me. I am special. I must not be wrong. I must not look weak." You can probably remember someone in your life who behaves like this. And if you are very honest, you can also notice moments when you behave like this too. But ego is not only arrogance. There is also a quiet ego, a wounded ego. Sometimes the inner voice does not say, "I am special," but rather, "I am nothing. I am broken. I am unlovable." This is still ego. It is still an obsession with me. The story has changed from superiority to inferiority, but the center is the same. I, me, mine. The Buddha pointed out that both pride and self-hatred are made from the same illusion. We are still taking this I as something solid, permanent, and absolutely real, and then we suffer inside the story that forms around it. Modern psychology describes the ego in yet another way. In many systems, the ego is seen as the organizing function of the mind, the part that creates a sense of identity, continuity, and control. It remembers your name, your history, your preferences. It knows that you are the same person who woke up yesterday and will go to sleep tonight. In this sense, ego is not something evil. It is necessary for basic functioning in the world. Without some sense of self, you could not keep appointments, form relationships, or even cross the street safely. So we already see something interesting. In one sense, ego looks like pride and selfishness. In another sense, ego looks like the basic structure of identity. One is clearly unhealthy. The other seems useful and even necessary. No wonder we feel confused when spiritual teachings talk about transcending the ego or letting go of the self. Are we supposed to become empty passive, without personality? Are we supposed to deny our own existence? Before we go to the Buddha's answer, let us look more closely at how ego appears in ordinary moments. Imagine someone criticizes you at work or in your family. Feel what happens in the body, the tightening in the chest, the rush of heat, the need to defend, explain, or attack back. If you watch carefully, you will notice that the pain does not come only from the words themselves, but from the story that immediately arises. How dare they speak to me like that? They do not respect me. They are wrong about me. They do not see who I really am. The wound is not just in the content of the criticism. It is in the clash between their view of me and my own view of me. Or imagine you post something online and it does not get the attention you hoped for. Notice the subtle disappointment, the feeling of being invisible, the comparison with others. Again, the suffering arises because of a certain image of me that wants to be seen in a certain way. When reality does not match this image, there is tension. This is ego at work, not in a dramatic spiritual crisis, but in the small daily moments of irritation, jealousy, and insecurity. From the Buddhist perspective, the problem is not that there is a practical sense of self that helps you navigate life. The problem is that we unconsciously turn this practical sense into an absolute truth. We treat the self-image as if it were a solid, independent entity that must be constantly protected, defended, and confirmed. This creates a constant background of fear. Fear of losing status, fear of being rejected, fear of failure, fear of death. The ego is like a fragile mask that we forget is a mask. Because we are identified with it, every small crack feels like a threat to our very existence. Now, please understand, the point of this talk is not to make you hate your ego. Ego is simply a pattern, a habit of thinking and feeling. It was developed to protect you, to help you survive, to give you a sense of stability in a changing world. But a habit that once helped you can later become a prison. A boat is useful to cross the river, but if you carry it on your head after reaching the shore, it becomes a burden. In the same way, a functional sense of I is useful, but clinging to it as an absolute truth becomes suffering. So, when we speak about understanding the ego, we are speaking about looking directly at this process of identification. When someone praises you and you feel bigger, lighter, more worthy, notice that. When someone ignores you and you feel smaller, heavier, less worthy, notice that. In both cases, ask quietly inside, who is this me that is inflating and deflating all the time? Where is it? What is it made of? Do not try to answer with philosophy. Just observe your experience honestly. In the next part of this talk, we will begin to move into the Buddha's analysis of the self. He did not simply say, "There is no self," and leave us confused. He offered a very precise way of looking at this experience we call I. But even before we go there, you can already start to see something for yourself. The ego is not a fixed object. It is an ongoing activity, a story that the mind keeps telling. The more tightly you hold that story, the more you suffer. The more lightly you hold it, the more space you feel inside your own life. For now, let your only task be this. As you continue listening, gently watch how the sense of I appears and disappears in your own mind. Notice how quickly it takes ownership. My thought, my feeling, my idea, my pain. And consider, just as an experiment, that perhaps this I is not as solid as it seems. From this small crack in certainty, real spiritual inquiry begins. When the Buddha looked directly at this sense of I, he did not stop at the surface. He did not simply say, "This is an illusion," and walk away. Instead, he patiently examined experience itself. What is this thing we call a person? What is actually here when we say I? If we look carefully, we cannot find a single solid core. Instead, We find a dynamic process made of different elements, constantly changing. The Buddha described these elements as the five aggregates. The first aggregate is form, the body. This is the physical aspect of what we call me. Bones, flesh, organs, skin, brain, the whole biological structure. Look at the body for a moment, either your own or someone else's. It changes from birth to childhood, from youth to old age. It gets injured, it recovers, it gets sick, it heals, or it does not. Cells are being born and dying all the time. Every 7 or 8 years, most of the cells in your body have been replaced, yet you still say, "This is me." Is the body really a fixed self? Or is it more like a river of matter, flowing and changing moment by moment? The second aggregate is feeling. In this context, feeling does not mean complicated emotion like anger or jealousy, but the basic tone that comes with each experience. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Every sound, every sight, every thought, every sensation in the body carries a subtle flavor. We like it, we dislike it, or we do not care. Notice that these feelings are constantly changing. One moment you enjoy your coffee, the next moment the cup is empty and you feel a slight dissatisfaction. One moment you feel comfortable sitting, a few minutes later there is discomfort and you want to move. Feelings rise and fall like waves. Can they be a stable self? The third aggregate is perception. This is the part of the mind that recognizes and labels experience: red, loud, friend, enemy, success, failure. Perception organizes the raw data of the senses and turns it into a meaningful world. Without perception, you would see shapes and colors, but not a tree, a phone, or my face. This aggregate is also endlessly changing. New perceptions are formed as you learn, as you age, as your culture and conditioning shape your understanding. The way you perceive yourself at 5 years old, at 15, at 30, at 60 is very different. Perception helps create your sense of identity, but it is clearly not fixed. The fourth aggregate is mental formations. This includes thoughts, intentions, habits, emotions, reactions, and all the subtle patterns of the mind. Over time, these patterns form what you might call your personality. You have tendencies to worry or to trust, to be generous or to hold back, to react quickly or slowly. But even these are not permanent. Under strong influences, practice, trauma, or insight, your habits can change. A person who was once very angry can become softer. Someone who was always afraid can become more courageous. Mental formations are like grooves in the mind, but they can be deepened, altered, or abandoned. If they were your true self, unchanging, transformation would not be possible. The fifth aggregate is consciousness. This is the knowing aspect, the awareness of sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touch, and thoughts. It is like the bare light that illuminates all experience. But in Buddhism, consciousness is also not seen as a single, solid entity. There is seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness, thinking consciousness, each arising with its corresponding object. Consciousness flickers, appears and disappears, shifts focus from one thing to another. In deep sleep, for example, your ordinary waking consciousness is not present, yet you still say, "I slept." If consciousness itself can vary and disappear from your perspective, how can it be an eternal, unchanging self? When we put these 5 aggregates together, form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, we get what we normally call a person. We give this dynamic combination a name, a history, an identity. We say, "This is me." But when the Buddha examined each aggregate, he saw that none of them contains a solid core. Each one is impermanent, subject to change, subject to causes and conditions. Each one is not truly under control. You cannot command your body never to age. You cannot order your feelings always to be pleasant. You cannot decide that your mind will never again think an unkind thought. In this sense, the aggregates are not self. Not self, or anatta, does not mean that nothing exists. It means that what exists is not the kind of thing we imagine. We imagine a permanent owner behind the body and mind, something separate and independent, something that can possess, control, and stand apart from experience. The Buddha is saying, when you look directly, you cannot find such an owner. There is only the process of body and mind, arising and passing away. There is doing, but no separate, fixed doer. There is thinking, but no thinker apart from the thought. There is feeling, but no independent feeler that exists outside the flow of feelings. To make this easier to understand, imagine a cart or a chariot. If you take it apart, you find wheels, an axle, a platform, a yoke. None of these parts alone is the chariot. Even all of them together are just a collection of parts. The word chariot is a convenient label we put on this collection to communicate and function. In the same way, I is a convenient label for the collection of aggregates. It works in daily life to say I go, I eat, I think, but when you search for this I beyond the aggregates, you cannot find anything solid. At first, this can feel uncomfortable, even frightening. The ego hears not self and imagines a kind of emptiness where nothing matters, no one feels, no one loves. But the Buddha's insight is the opposite. When you see that there is no separate self to protect, the heart can relax. The borders between me and not me become softer. Compassion arises more easily because you see that this body-mind process is intimately connected with all other body-mind processes. Your suffering is not isolated. It is part of a larger web of causes and conditions. Your joy is not owned. It is like sunlight that shines through a window but does not belong to the glass. Understanding the five aggregates and not self is not about adopting a new belief. It is about changing the way you look. When anger arises, you can ask, which aggregate is this? There is a heat in the body, form. There is discomfort, feeling. There is a perception of insult or unfairness, perception. There are thoughts and impulses to speak harshly, mental formations. All of this is known in awareness, consciousness. None of these is a permanent me. They are conditions arising together. This way of looking gives you a small distance, a gap in which you can choose. You are no longer fully possessed by the anger. Over time, seeing in this way weakens the blind belief in a solid ego. The personality continues to function. The body continues to move. Decisions continue to be made. You still say I and you in daily conversation. But inside, there is less clinging, less tightness, less fear. The sense of being a separate, isolated I begins to soften, and a deeper, quieter freedom can be felt, even in the middle of ordinary life. Now that we have seen how the Buddha analyzed the self into changing processes, let us look more closely at how this misunderstood I actually creates suffering in your everyday life. Because if this teaching stays only at the level of philosophy, it will not really touch your heart. The real power of Dharma appears when you can see the connection between this subtle clinging to me and the very concrete experiences of pain, conflict, and dissatisfaction that you meet every day. One of the most common ways ego creates suffering is through comparison. The mind is constantly measuring. Am I better or worse than others? Am I ahead or behind? More attractive, more successful, more spiritual, more intelligent? You may notice that you can be in a perfectly neutral or even pleasant mood, but the moment you see someone who seems to have more than you, the mood shifts. Perhaps you scroll through social media and see people with more money, more beauty, more recognition. Immediately, the inner voice says, "Why not me? What is wrong with me? I am behind." Or the opposite. You see someone in a difficult situation and feel secretly superior. "At least I am not like that." In both cases, peace is disturbed. The heart becomes contracted, either in envy or in pride. If there were no solid I to defend, comparison would lose much of its power. You could simply see different conditions, different causes and results, without turning everything into a personal drama. But when the ego takes center stage, every difference becomes a judgment of me. The success of others becomes a threat. Their failure becomes your comfort. This is suffering. Even if you appear to win in this game of comparison, you lose your natural, open-hearted joy. You cannot genuinely celebrate others, and you cannot truly rest in yourself. Another way ego creates suffering is through the need to control. The ego has a very specific script about how life should unfold, how people should treat you, how your career should progress, how your body should feel, how your spiritual path should look. When reality cooperates with this script, the ego feels satisfied for a moment. When reality does not, frustration, anger, or despair arises. You might notice this in very small situations, such as when traffic is slow, someone speaks to you in a way you do not like, or your plans are interrupted. The discomfort you feel is not only about the situation itself. It is about the clash between what is happening and what the ego believes should be happening. The Buddha taught that craving and clinging are the roots of suffering. The ego is that part of the mind that constantly says, "This must stay, this must go, this must be different." It grabs onto pleasant experiences and resists unpleasant ones. But everything in the aggregates is changing. No state of mind, no success, no relationship, no physical condition can remain fixed. When the ego demands from life what life can never give, permanent security, permanent pleasure, permanent recognition, the result is inevitable disappointment. We keep trying to force reality into the shape of our desires, and reality keeps changing. This tension is dukkha, the unsatisfactoriness at the core of ego-driven existence. Ego also creates suffering through rigid identity stories. Over time, you develop narratives about who you are. I am a strong person. I am a failure. I am the responsible one. I am the victim. I am the wise one. I am the broken one. These stories may have some connection to your past experiences, but they are not the whole truth. They are simplified scripts that the mind replays again and again. When something happens in your life, instead of seeing it freshly, you interpret it through these old stories. If your story is, "I am unlovable," every neutral event can be twisted to confirm that belief. If your story is, "I must always be right," any disagreement becomes intolerable. From the Buddhist perspective, these stories are just more mental formations, arising and passing in consciousness. But when ego identifies with them, they become heavy and solid. You feel trapped inside them. Even positive stories can become prisons. If you cling to the image, "I am a helper," you may not allow yourself to rest or receive support because your ego demands that you always be the strong one. If you cling to, "I am a compassionate person," you may feel threatened whenever anger or judgment appears in your mind. And instead of seeing those as temporary mental formations, you panic. This is not who I am supposed to be. In this way, identity becomes a source of anxiety rather than freedom. Relationships are one of the most vivid mirrors where you can see ego creating suffering. When two egos interact, each with its own expectations and fears, the field is ready for conflict. You might notice how quickly the mind moves from genuine listening to self-defense. Someone you love says something careless. and immediately the inner voice rises. How could they say that to me? After everything I have done for them, they treat me like this. The emphasis is always on me and my story. You stop hearing the deeper reality of the other person, their own pain, confusion, conditioning, and instead only hear how their behavior affects your identity. In intimate relationships, friendships, families, workplaces, the ego often seeks to possess and control others. You should make me feel safe. You should behave according to my needs. You should understand me perfectly. When others inevitably fail to match these expectations, ego concludes, "You are wrong. You do not care. You are my enemy." Compassion and curiosity close down, and the heart hardens. The Buddha invited us to see that all beings are driven by their own causes and conditions, not by our ego's script. When you loosen your grip on how they must be for me, there is more space for real connection. Without that loosening, relationships become a cycle of demand, disappointment, and blame. Ego can even create suffering on the spiritual path itself. Once you begin to practice, to meditate, to study Dharma, the ego may adopt a new identity. I am a practitioner. I am more mindful than others. I understand Buddhism. I am close to enlightenment. Then, when you experience doubt, laziness, or strong emotions, you feel ashamed. I should not feel this. After so much practice, how can I still be like this? Spiritual ego is subtle because it hides under beautiful concepts. But the structure is the same. There is a solid me trying to become a special version of me, and using the path to strengthen that image. The Buddha's teaching cuts through this by emphasizing humility and direct seeing. Progress on the path is not measured by how special you feel, but by how lightly you hold this I. Do you become less reactive, less possessive, less trapped in your own stories? Are you more able to listen, to forgive, to see your own mind without judgment? If these qualities are growing, it means the grip of ego is weakening. If not, you may be collecting spiritual ideas without really letting them transform your heart. Perhaps the most profound suffering the ego creates is the fear of death. If you believe that you are a solid, separate entity, then death appears as the absolute end of me. The ego cannot imagine its own absence. It clings desperately to continuation, to legacy, to control over the future. This fear may not always be conscious, but it vibrates in the background of life, driving many of our ambitions and anxieties. We want to leave a mark, to be remembered, to prove that I existed and I mattered. From the perspective of the five aggregates and not self, what we call death is the natural dissolution of temporary conditions. The body returns to the elements. Mental processes cease in their current form, but the causes and effects of our actions continue, influencing others, influencing the world. The idea of a fixed owner who is completely destroyed is already a misunderstanding, because that owner was never found in the first place. When this is seen, even a little, the fear around death begins to soften. Life is still precious, but it is no longer possessed in the same way. You are less frantic in your attempts to secure a permanent identity. All of this may sound very large and philosophical, but you can verify it in small, concrete moments. Notice how a single thought about me can change your whole mood. Notice how a single imagined story about how others see you can create shame, anger, or pride. Notice how quickly your mind says my body, my idea, my time, my space. Each my is like a hook where suffering can attach itself. When the hook is not there, or when it is weaker, painful experiences still arise, but they do not penetrate in the same way. They do not define you. The Buddha did not promise a life without difficulty. The body will still experience sickness, aging, and physical pain. The world will still bring gain and loss, praise and blame, success and failure. But he pointed to a radical possibility. Even in the middle of this, there can be a deep inner freedom. That freedom begins when you see that the I you are constantly defending is not a solid thing, but a moving pattern of aggregates. When you see that clearly, the ego's ability to create suffering is greatly reduced. The same events may happen, but they no longer feel like personal attacks on a fixed self. They are understood as part of a larger, impersonal unfolding. In this way, understanding ego is not about rejecting yourself. It is about seeing through a misunderstanding. You do not lose anything real by letting go of a false center. On the contrary, you regain a natural, simple way of being in the world, present, responsive, connected, and at ease. When people first hear the teaching of not self, it can sound very strange, even disturbing. The mind quickly jumps to conclusions. If there is no self, then nothing matters. If there is no self, who is responsible for actions? Who practices? Who suffers? Who is liberated? These reactions are natural. The ego hears no self and imagines a kind of empty void where there is no meaning, no love, no morality. It is important to see that this is not what the Buddha was pointing to at all. The first misunderstanding is the idea that not self means nothing matters. If there is no solid me, then why care about anything? Why be kind? Why avoid harm? The Buddha's response is very practical. Even without a fixed self, actions have consequences. When there is anger in the mind and it is acted out, suffering follows, both for yourself and others. When there is generosity, compassion, and wisdom, there is peace and benefit. This is true whether or not you believe in a permanent soul. Cause and effect do not disappear just because you change your philosophy. In fact, clinging to a rigid self can make you less responsive to the reality of cause and effect. You may say, "This is just who I am," and use that as an excuse not to change unskillful habits. I am an angry person, I am a jealous person, I am a cold person. But if there is no fixed self, then there is always the possibility of transformation. Your patterns are not your prison. They are just conditions that can be understood and released. In this way, the teaching of not self actually supports responsibility and growth, not apathy. Another common misunderstanding is that not self means you should suppress or deny your humanity. People sometimes think, if I am practicing Buddhism, I should not feel hurt, I should not feel fear, I should not feel desire. A person who understands not self is beyond all emotions. This is just another idea of a perfect spiritual self that the ego tries to become. The Buddha did not teach emotional suppression. He taught mindful understanding. Feelings still arise. Thoughts still appear. The body still reacts. The difference is that you no longer build a heavy identity around them. When sadness comes, the ego says, "I am sad. There is something wrong with me. This proves I am weak." The view of not self simply says, sadness is present. It feels like this. It arises due to conditions. You allow the experience, you feel it fully, but you do not turn it into a solid story about who you are forever. This is a more gentle, more honest way of being with yourself. Nothing human is rejected. Everything is seen as part of the passing flow of the aggregates. A deeper and more subtle misunderstanding is the question: if there is no self, who practices? Who follows the path? Who becomes enlightened? On the level of everyday language, it is still useful to say, "I practice, you practice." We are not trying to erase normal speech, but when we look more closely, practice is a series of intentions, actions, and mental states arising and passing in awareness. There is effort, there is mindfulness, there is concentration, there is insight, all conditioned by previous moments. Nowhere in this process do we find a separate owner controlling everything from outside the flow. You can think of it like a seed growing into a tree. We say, the seed becomes a tree, but in reality there is a continuous process: soil, water, sunlight, time. There is no single moment where we can say, here is the fixed entity that does the growing. Yet growth happens. In the same way, we talk about a person practicing, but what is actually happening is the unfolding of causes and conditions. Hearing the Dharma, feeling inspired, remembering to be mindful, choosing wholesome actions. The teaching of not-self does not deny this process. It only questions the existence of a separate controller behind it. There is also the fear that if there is no self, there can be no love. If I am just a collection of aggregates, and you are just a collection of aggregates, how can there be real connection? But think about what blocks love in daily life. It is often the ego, my pride, my fear of being hurt, my demand that you behave according to my script. When these egoic patterns are very strong, the heart is closed. When there is less clinging to me and mine, there is more space to feel the reality of another person. You can listen more deeply because you are not so busy defending your self-image. You can forgive more easily because you see that others, like you, are driven by their own conditioning, their own pain and confusion. In this way, not-self does not kill love, it purifies it. Love becomes less about possession and more about care. Less about, you belong to me and must make me happy, and more about, may you be well, may you be free from suffering. When the sense of a separate self softens, the boundary between my happiness and your happiness feels thinner. Compassion naturally extends beyond the small circle of me and my people. Another misunderstanding is the fear that not-self leads to a kind of passivity, a lack of motivation. If there is no one here, why do anything? Why engage with the world? But look at nature. The wind blows, water flows, plants grow, animals move. There is no central ego controlling the universe, yet there is immense activity, complexity, and beauty. In your own life, when you are not obsessed with how everything reflects on me, you may actually become more effective, not less. You can act from clarity instead of insecurity, from wisdom instead of egoic reaction. When you see that there is no solid self to defend, you can take appropriate action without so much anxiety about success or failure. You can work, create, help others, speak truth, and at the same time hold the results lightly. This is not passivity. It is engaged responsiveness without the heavy burden of ego. The Buddha himself was very active after his awakening, teaching, walking, meeting people, resolving conflicts. His realization of not-self did not lead him to hide in a cave forever. It allowed him to move through the world with great freedom and compassion. Finally, perhaps the most important misunderstanding to address is the idea that not-self is just another rigid doctrine you must believe. The Buddha did not say, you must accept this philosophy or you are wrong. He invited you to look at your experience and see for yourself. When you are hurt, notice how quickly the mind says, they hurt me, and how that thought intensifies the pain. When you forget the story of me, even for a moment, perhaps while watching a sunset, listening to music, or helping someone, the sense of separation fades and there is a simple, open presence. In those moments, you are tasting, in a small way, what life is like when the ego is not at the center. The teaching of not-self is not meant to be a cold conclusion. It is meant to be a doorway out of the cramped room of me and my problems and into a larger, more spacious way of being. You do not have to force yourself to believe anything. You can simply begin by questioning the automatic assumption that there is a solid I inside you, separate from everything else, in control of everything, and responsible for carrying the whole world on its shoulders. When that assumption loosens, even a little, you may find that life feels lighter, kinder, and more connected than you ever imagined. Up to this point, we have been looking at the ego conceptually. We have explored how the Buddha analyzed the self and how clinging to I, me, mine, creates suffering. But understanding this only with the intellect is not enough. The real transformation begins when you start to observe the ego in real time, in your own life, in your own body and mind. This is where Dharma becomes alive. So in this part of the talk, let us focus on very practical ways to notice the ego as it arises and to relate to it with wisdom instead of blindly obeying it. The first practice is very simple, but very powerful, becoming aware of I thoughts. Throughout the day, the mind produces endless thoughts centered around the self. I need to do this. They don't respect me. I always make mistakes. I am better than them. Most of the time, we are completely merged with these thoughts. We do not see them as thoughts. We see them as reality. The practice is to begin silently labeling them when you notice them. I thought, I thought, I thought. You are not trying to force them to stop. You are simply shining the light of awareness on them. You might be surprised, even shocked, at how many of your thoughts are about me. Fear about the future. What will happen to me? Regret about the past. Why did I do that? Comparison. Where do I stand? This labeling is not meant to create guilt. It is meant to create clarity. Once you see the pattern, it becomes easier not to take every thought so personally. An I thought appears, you recognize it, you gently acknowledge it, and you let it pass, just as you would watch a cloud crossing the sky. A second practice is to observe the ego through emotional reactions, especially in moments of conflict or discomfort. When someone criticizes you, ignores you, interrupts you, or disagrees with you, the ego often reacts very quickly. There may be a tightening in the stomach, heat in the face, a rush of arguments in the mind. Instead of immediately defending yourself or attacking the other, try to pause, even for a few seconds. In that pause, ask quietly inside, what exactly is being threatened right now? What image of myself am I protecting? Maybe the image is, I am a competent person, and the criticism makes you feel like a failure. Maybe the image is, I am a kind person, and someone's complaint makes you feel like a bad human being. Maybe the image is, I am important, and being ignored feels like a denial of your existence. When you see the specific self-image that is being challenged, the reaction becomes less mysterious. You realize, this is the ego defending a picture of itself. The anger or hurt is no longer just about the words spoken. It is about the story of me that those words seem to threaten. The third practice is gentle inquiry, asking, who is this I? This is not meant as a rigid intellectual puzzle, but as a soft, curious investigation. When a strong emotion arises, anger, fear, shame, pride, turn your attention inward and ask, right now, who is the one who is angry? Where is this me located? Look in the body. Do you find it in the chest, in the head, in the belly? Look in the thoughts. Is the I anything more than a thought saying I? Look in the feelings. Are they stable enough to be a self? You will not find a solid answer. Instead, you may notice that experience is made of sensations, feelings, images, and thoughts, all moving and changing. The I seems to be a center, but when you look for it, you only find more experiences. This is not something you have to force yourself to believe. You simply investigate again and again with patience. Over time, this kind of inquiry weakens the automatic belief in a separate controller at the center. The ego's grip loosens, not because you crushed it, but because you saw through the illusion of solidity. A fourth practice is to return to the body again and again. The ego lives strongly in thoughts and stories, but the body is always in the present moment. When you notice a rush of I thoughts or a strong emotional reaction, bring your attention to physical sensations. Feel your feet on the ground, the contact with the chair, the movement of the breath. Notice where in your body the tension is held. Is there tightness in the jaw, a knot in the stomach, a burning in the chest? Instead of spinning more stories about what they did to me or what this means about me, stay with the raw energy. Breathe into it, allow it, soften around it. You may discover that what felt like a solid me is actually a bundle of sensations and feelings that rise, peak, and fade. By grounding in the body, you pull some of the fuel away from the ego's narrative. The story may still appear, but it no longer feels like an absolute truth. It becomes one possible interpretation among many. Another very practical way to observe the ego is to notice your language, both outwardly and inwardly. How often do you say my and mine? My time, my space, my ideas, my success, my failure, my problem, my achievement. There is nothing wrong with these words in ordinary conversation, but they reveal how much we are constantly claiming ownership. For a short experiment, you might quietly switch to more neutral language in your own mind. Instead of my anger, you can say anger is here. Instead of my pain, you can say pain is being felt. Instead of my mistake, you can say a mistake happened. This shift seems small, but it changes the way the brain relates to experience. Ownership is reduced, identification is softened. You are still responsible for your actions, but you are not defining your entire being by each passing state. Anger can come and go without becoming your identity. Pain can be intense without becoming who you are. When you speak to yourself in this more spacious way, compassion naturally grows. You are kinder to yourself and more understanding toward others, because you see that everyone is dealing with arising and passing conditions, not fixed identities. You can also use ordinary daily activities as laboratories for watching the ego. For example, when you are working, notice the thoughts that arise around success and failure. Do you feel a subtle panic when you make a mistake? Do you feel inflated when you receive praise? At home, notice the small irritations when someone does not behave as you wish, leaving dishes, speaking loudly, moving slowly. In each of these moments, ask, what is the I demanding right now? What expectation is it holding? Instead of judging yourself for having egoic reactions, celebrate the fact that you are seeing them. Every time you become aware of an ego pattern, that pattern is already weaker than before. Unseen, it controls you. Seen clearly, it starts to lose its power. The practice is not to become a person with no ego, but to become a person who is not blindly driven by ego. Another helpful practice is to intentionally cultivate perspectives that soften the sense of separateness. One simple way is to remember that everyone you meet is living inside their own story of I, with their own hopes and fears. The person who annoys you in traffic, the colleague who criticizes you, the family member who repeats the same patterns. They are all, just like you, trying to be happy, trying to avoid pain, trying to protect their sense of self. When you remember this, even briefly, the heart opens a little. Instead of seeing only enemies or obstacles to your ego, you see fellow human beings caught in their own conditioning. You can make this very concrete. When you feel hurt by someone, you pause and silently say, just like me, this person wants to be respected. Just like me, this person is afraid of rejection. Just like me, this person suffers. This does not mean you must agree with them or allow harmful behavior, but it shifts the perspective from me against you to two human beings struggling with their own egos. That shift alone can reduce a great deal of tension and create the space for wiser action. Finally, remember that observing the ego is not about hating it or trying to violently destroy it. If you approach ego with aggression, "I must get rid of this terrible thing inside me," you are simply creating another layer of ego, the spiritual warrior, the one who wants to be pure, the one who will defeat the bad self. Instead, approach ego as you would approach a scared child, firm but gentle, clear but kind. You can say inwardly, "I see you. I know you are trying to protect me, but you do not need to run the show anymore. I will respond with awareness, not with your fear." This attitude of kindness is crucial. Without it, the practice becomes harsh, and the ego will only find new ways to defend itself. With kindness, you can look at even your most painful patterns without collapsing into shame. You see them as part of the human condition, not as a personal defect. The Buddha taught not self, but he also taught compassion. The two go together. Seeing that there is no solid separate self does not make you cold. It makes you more tender because you recognize your shared vulnerability with all beings. So as you move through your daily life, let these practices accompany you, labeling "I" thoughts, pausing in emotional reactions, gently inquiring, "Who is this I?" Grounding in the body, softening ownership language, using daily situations as mirrors, and remembering the shared humanity of others. You do not need to do all of them perfectly. Even small moments of awareness begin to change the pattern. Over time, you will notice that the ego still appears, but its voice is quieter, its demands are less urgent, and its stories are easier to see through. In that space, a deeper, quieter presence becomes more and more available. A presence that does not need to constantly say, "I," because it is already complete. If it is safe for you to do so right now, you may gently close your eyes. If you are driving or doing something that requires attention, simply listen and let the words wash through you without changing what you are doing. The point of this reflection is not to force some special experience, but to look calmly at what is already here. Begin by noticing your body in this moment. Feel the weight of the body resting on the chair or bed. Notice the contact with the floor, the pressure on your feet, the way your hands are placed. There is no need to change your posture, just become aware of it. The body is breathing by itself, in and out. Allow your attention to rest lightly on the movement of the breath, the rising and falling of the chest or the belly, the coolness of the air as it enters, the warmth as it leaves. As you stay with the breath, notice that sounds are also present. Perhaps there are sounds in the room, or outside, or the sound of this voice. You do not need to push them away. They arise in awareness and fade. The body is here. The breath is here. Sounds are here. All of this is happening on its own. Now, gently turn your attention toward the mind. Notice that thoughts are also appearing and disappearing. They might be about the past, about the future, about this talk, about yourself. You do not need to stop them or follow them. Just watch them come and go, like clouds moving through the sky. A thought arises, stays for a moment, and then dissolves. Another thought arises. Maybe an image, a memory, a plan. They all have the same nature, arising, changing, vanishing. Among these thoughts, some are I thoughts. If one appears, I need to remember this. I don't understand. I am doing well. I am not doing this right. See if you can gently recognize it as an I thought. Here's the story of me again. You don't have to judge it. Just see it. Label it softly if you like, and let it pass. Now, as you sit here, ask quietly inside, right now, where is this I that I talk about all day? Is it in the body? Feel the body again. Sensations of pressure, warmth, coolness, tingling, perhaps some areas of discomfort. All of this is changing moment by moment. Is any single sensation stable enough to be a solid me? Look at the feelings that are present. Maybe calm, maybe restless, maybe peaceful, maybe bored, maybe curious. These feelings, too, shift and move. Pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral tones come and go. Is there a permanent I inside any of these fleeting moods? Look at the stream of thoughts and images. One moment the mind is here with the breath, the next moment it is somewhere else, then it comes back. Opinions, judgments, fantasies, memories, all moving. Is there a fixed thinker separate from these thoughts, or is there just thinking happening? Do not try to find a philosophical answer. Just look. What you can actually experience are sensations, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and the knowing of them. The label, I, is placed on top of this movement. The label is useful in daily life, but in this quiet moment, you can see that everything it refers to is changing. If at any time during this reflection you feel fear or discomfort, simply return to the breath. Feel the ground under you. Notice the simple fact that you are sitting, breathing, hearing. Let that be enough for now. There is no need to push deeper than what feels safe. Even a small glimpse is valuable. Now bring to mind a recent situation where you felt hurt, offended, or strongly annoyed. Not the most traumatic event of your life, just something manageable. See the scene in your mind. Remember what was said or done. Notice what begins to happen in the body as you recall it. Perhaps tension, tightness, heat. Notice any emotions that arise. Anger, sadness, embarrassment. Ask gently, in this situation, what self-image was I protecting? Was it, I am a good person, I am competent, I am important, I am lovable, I am respected? See if you can name it. Then recognize, this is an image, a mental formation, a story about me. When someone's words or behavior threatened that image, the ego reacted. The pain was not only in the event itself, but in the clash between reality and the ego's picture of how things should be. For a moment, imagine viewing this situation as if you were watching two streams of conditions meeting. Your conditioning, their conditioning. Your habits, their habits. Your fears, their fears. Not as two solid selves attacking each other, but as two complex processes interacting. Notice if this shift in view softens the tension even a little. You do not have to force forgiveness or pretend there was no pain. Just see how the sense of me versus you relaxes when you look this way. Now, gently let this scene fade and come back again to the breath. In and out. The body is still here. The sounds are still here. The flow of experience continues. Ask yourself, very simply, in this whole field of changing experience, do I find a separate, fixed I that owns all of this? Or do I find a mysterious, ever-moving life, known in awareness? Let your mind rest for a few breaths in simple knowing. Knowing the breath, knowing sounds, knowing sensations. You do not have to call it my breath or my awareness. Just knowing, just this. As we move toward the end of this reflection, take a moment to sense how you feel. There might be clarity or confusion or calm or resistance. Whatever is here is welcome. Remember that the purpose is not to reach a special spiritual state, but to begin a new way of looking, less identified with the ego, more intimate with reality. Slowly, if your eyes were closed, you can begin to open them, allowing light and shapes to return. Let your gaze be soft. Notice that the world has not changed, but your way of seeing might be slightly different. There is still a body, still thoughts, still responsibilities. But perhaps there is just a little more space around the sense of I, a little more room to breathe. As we come to the end of this Dharma talk, let us gather the essential points and bring them back into the context of your daily life. We began by questioning the I that seems to stand at the center of every experience. We saw how the Buddha analyzed this person into 5 aggregates: body, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, and how each of these is changing, not truly under our control, and therefore not a solid self. We explored how ego, misunderstood as a fixed, separate me, generates suffering through comparison, control, rigid identity, conflict in relationships, spiritual pride, and fear of death. We addressed the common misunderstandings, that not self means nothing matters, that it denies our humanity, that it kills love, or that it is just another belief to adopt. And we have just practiced observing the ego in the present moment, noticing I thoughts, pausing in emotional reactions, gently inquiring, who is this I? And returning to the simplicity of the body and breath. What does all of this mean for you? In a very practical way, it means that every day, in countless small moments, you have an opportunity to suffer less by believing the ego a little less. When someone disagrees with you, you can notice the defensive I rising and choose to listen instead of attacking. When jealousy appears, you can see it as a passing mental formation rather than a proof that you are lacking. When shame arises, you can say, shame is here, instead of I am shameful. When you fail, you can learn, adjust, and move on, without turning it into a permanent identity. Living from this understanding does not make you passive. On the contrary, it allows you to act with more clarity. You can still set boundaries, still speak truth, still pursue meaningful work, still love deeply. But you no longer need to make everything about the story of me. You can care about outcomes without being owned by them. You can offer your best, and when things do not go as you hoped, you can bow to the reality of conditions and begin again. The more often you remember to observe the ego instead of obeying it, the more natural this way of being becomes. You start to notice that what you truly are cannot be reduced to any story. Not the story of your success, not the story of your failure, not the story of your wounds, not the story of your achievements. All of these stories arise in awareness, change, and pass away. Awareness itself, this open knowing in which everything appears and disappears, is not threatened by praise or blame, by gain or loss, by birth or death. You do not need to give this a name. You do not need to call it anything at all. Just know that in the deepest sense, you are not as small as the ego believes. You are not limited to the narrow cage of I, me, mine. When the grip of ego loosens, even a little, the world becomes more intimate, more alive. Other people are no longer just characters in your personal movie. They are recognized as centers of experience, just like you. This naturally gives rise to compassion and humility. As you leave this talk and move back into the ordinary flow of your day, I invite you to carry just one simple intention: to notice a few times each day when the I becomes tight and heavy. In those moments, pause, breathe, ask quietly, what am I protecting? What am I clinging to? Who is this I? Let the question open a small space inside you. Through that space, wisdom and kindness can enter. If this exploration of ego and not self has touched something in you, I encourage you to keep practicing in your own way. You might sit quietly for a few minutes each day, simply watching thoughts and sensations. You might bring more mindfulness into your conversations, your work, your relationships. You might revisit these reflections from time to time and see how they land in new ways as you change. Thank you for listening, for being willing to question such a deep assumption as who am I? May this inquiry not make you cold or distant, but warm and free. May it help you suffer less and love more. May it remind you, again and again, that you do not have to be a prisoner of the ego's stories. There is another way of being available in every moment, open, present, connected, and at peace.